Welcome. This is Leanna Lindquist, Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, and we're here tonight for a special webinar geared to area governors to help them with their visits and their reports. We have two presenters tonight. Our first one is Raynette Yoshida, the Area 62 Governor, and James Wantz, who's a past Area 92 Governor. In this webinar this evening, we will learn how to conduct an area visit, how to report an area visit, followed by questions and answers. I would like to introduce our first presenter, Raynette Yoshida. Raynette, will you please share with us your perspective on how to do an area visit?
To my plan. First of all, I have a short attention span, and so I wanted to make it as simple as possible for me when I go out to visit the clubs. So I came up with 4 easy to remember, streamlined approaches. Approach and prepare, execute, and follow through. To plan an area visit, first, communicate with the contact person to learn of their expectation. Anticipate what that might include, and be the initiator and follow through in order to keep your personal branding consistent as a governor, as an area governor. Assess the personality of the group, and that means just being keen to what is their trademark, what is their branding, what is their point of difference from one club to another. As we all know, people look for a good fit when they are shopping for a Toastmaster club to join. So as we go to do our visits, keep that in mind, that they will all be different, and to honor and respect that and not use our personal opinions to guide the various clubs. Envision what the visit will look like, set the tone, and set the stage. So often we hear about stage time, stage time, stage time. Well, on the other side of that is, what does the staging look like? What should it look like? Should it be consistent? Should it be something different all the time? Things to ask yourself and be aware of as we go through the visits as an area governor. Next, prepare. Ask the leader if there are any names, for example, that require a certain pronunciation, and be prepared and be sensitive again to that. Some people really are calm and cool about it. Other people are a little bit more serious about their names. So again, be sensitive about that. Dress professionally, but with personality and flair that help to make a great first impression. Oftentimes we may feel overdressed, other times maybe underdressed. I think the best thing to do is to dress comfortably, but always on the more upper scale side, just to be a little bit more professional without being intimidating with your outfit and how you look when you're visiting a club. Again, first impressions always count the most. Be one of the first to attend to help with the setup, mingle, and greet. This is one of the areas that I feel most passionate about, because I'm quite the hugger and I like to feel the love. And I think people appreciate that when you recognize them and feel like I don't know if you're familiar with the TV show cheers where everybody knows your name, where you know their name, and you take down the walls and the silos by mingling with everyone and treating that almost as though it's your club and welcoming the members as they come in. Next is execute. Be engaging, and again, making people feel at home even if it's their club. Participate in their theme if there is one, maybe bringing props and adding an element of surprise. What I did for one of the initiating of the officers, I brought a couple of boas because I knew there were 2 females, and I brought 4 top hats for the guys. And I brought a wand not knowing that they did not have a gavel, so I used the wand as the gavel and passed it on as I introduced the officers, and it was a lot of fun. It was a serious occasion in the initiating of the officers, but it was also fun so that it wasn't too stoic and stiff. Participate in their theme, adding an element of surprise. Listen, smile, learn their names, be one of them so they can see that yes, if she can do it, so can I, and plant the seed for future area governors. What interests me in being a governor is when I saw the governors coming through to visit our clubs, and they were very hospitable, and that totally helped me to visualize myself as being able to be an area governor. They made it look easy and fun. Follow through. Send a thank you note to the club and set a date for the next visit. The time to establish a relationship and grow a relationship with the club is instantly, to do it with a sense of urgency, sending the thank you note and setting the date for the next visit. So these are just a few things that I ran through my mind in thinking about how I wanted to approach this new job of being an area governor. Thank you.
Raynette, thank you very much. We'll move on to questions and answers. You provide the question and Raynette will provide the answer. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand now. So Raynette, it sounds like you had a lot of fun when you took your boas and your top hat and you went to a club to install the officers. Wow, I bet they were surprised.
Yes, it was very hot. It was a small room. We sat around in a circle and it was packed, and there were 3 new members that day. It was very exciting.
Do you have any idea if any of those members or those guests joined?
Yes, 3 new members that day.
3 brand new.
Yes.
Great. David, was that you that had a question? Let me see if I can unmute you. David, go ahead. Let's see. Your question for Raynette. Can you help me with setting expectations of the clubs if they ask, why are you coming? Great question.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would just say, I want to be part of your team. I want to be part of the club, and I'd like to visit to have a tribal hug. Just lighten up, make it not so serious. It's not scary and it's not intimidating. I just want to come and hear of your expectations. Turn the question back.
Great. Eric has a question for you. Go ahead, Eric. I think you'll need to go ahead and type that in for us if you would, please. And I think another response that you can have is, I am here to help you be successful as a club leader, and I am here to help your club be successful in the next year. It's all about making clubs successful and meeting the goals that they have set. Eric, if you want to type in a question, we're happy to answer that. So Raynette, we are just a couple weeks into the new Toastmaster year. So how many clubs do you have in your area?
5.
5 clubs. And how many have you visited so far?
2.
2 of them. Okay. And what are your plans? Have you kind of set some goals for yourself in terms of how many visits you'll be doing?
I haven't yet as far as how many visits, because I want to see how they're doing and what their needs are, and I want to be able to be open to when they want me to come out.
Well, great. Okay, we have a question. Let's see. I had a great experience with my clubs and doing officer installations with Silicon Forest. And my goal is, for my area, is to have my clubs to help one another out. Do I need to attend the club contests? That's a great question. Typically, area governors do try and attend the club contests. I recall when I was an area governor that's one of the things I did, and you may find that they will ask you to perhaps be one of the judges at the contest, and that's a great way to get to further know the members of the club. Here's another. Go ahead.
I plan to attend as many as possible, just as you had said, and I also hope to encourage them to attend other clubs' contests as well, to see how they operate and get a flavor for other clubs and how they do their contest. Yep.
Okay, we have another question for you. This one is from John. He said, I have told my presidents I would like the first visit to follow the completion of their success plan. What do you think?
Oh, that's good. I like it.
Once they have the club success plan in place, that's kind of the roadmap for the whole year for that club. Right. So absolutely.
Yep.
It's a great way for the governor to follow along. Another question, this one is from Jessie. Is it okay to just drop in on a club without letting them know that you plan to attend?
I wouldn't do that personally. Maybe once you know the clubs and have a feel for the mood or the tone of that particular club, maybe they would feel comfortable, or you would feel comfortable doing that, but maybe other clubs may not. It depends.
Well, I think that's a great answer. Once you have developed that rapport with the club, and you can even ask them, hey, do you mind if I just drop in sometime? That'll really give you a sense of where the club's at. Because as you mentioned earlier, Raynette, every club has its own culture and its own personality, and you really need to be respectful of that.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question here. How do you find out who the contact person is? Who have you contacted, Raynette, when you were going to do your visits? What member of the club did you reach out to?
the president, and I got that from Phyllis.
Okay, we now have club lists, and I believe that Phyllis sent out officers lists
Great.
to all our governors this past week, and
Great.
that's a great place to start, is with the club president. Another great person to reach out to in a club is the vice president of education, because ideally they've got the finger on the pulse of who's advancing in the club and what's going on. So either of those are great places to start. Do we have any more questions for Raynette at the moment? Okay, lots of great questions, Raynette. Thank you so much for your insight and your particular style on how to do area governor visits. Thank you. And now we are going to move along to James Watts. And James was an area governor last year. Welcome, James.
Good evening, Leanna, and everyone else. I hope you're all having a wonderful evening.
Well, I think we are. We're glad to have you here. So let's move right along.
Absolutely. What I'm going to be talking about tonight for the area governors is a bit more of the mechanics behind where you find the reports, how to fill out the reports, and some of the ins and outs of presenting that material to the clubs and a few of the other tools that we have available. As you can see on your screen right now, in the beginning I say start by logging into Toastmasters International. The international site has lots of tools that are set up for club officers and especially area governors and those above to use. If you do not have a login already for Toastmasters International, I implore you to get one. There are lots of tools that are available, and it's going to make your job incredibly easier by using those. If you do have a login, you click on the login button, which brings you to your login screen. At this location, of course, you enter your email and your password and then log in. If you already have one, it's great. If you do not, or you can't remember your password, click on the Forgot Your Password. That also works for first-time users to set up an account. Once you have that, if we look here at the next slide, you'll see what we have is a club status report form. These were the first tools that I used before going to the clubs to visit them, just to take a look at where each of the clubs was in relation to the DCP program, the Distinguished Club Program, and to see if any of the goals had already been met for the year. This information can be had, like I said, on the Toastmasters website. On the next page, we will see that the location to find that, we move to our next slide,
We are working on it.
Okay, technical difficulties. Please stand by. As you can see on this report, you have all of the 10 goals, and throughout the year, as soon as a club has recorded one of those goals, a check mark shows up in that box. It'll also show you how many more they need as far as members. It'll show you exactly what their base is, how many members they need to get to, all of the pertinent information for the DCP. As an area governor, I never took the DCP as the end-all be-all. It is an indication of the strength of a club. It's an indication of where they're at. If you look at a DCP and you see a club that has, let's say, 18, 19 members and lots of things going on, they're turning in educational awards, you can be pretty certain that there's a pretty healthy club. If there aren't as many members and there aren't as many educational awards, then you're going to have a different task laid out for you, possibly helping the club build their membership up. On this screen, you can see that where the arrow is pointing is the Distinguished Performance Reports dashboard. If you're not familiar with that dashboard, I once again implore you, behoove you, to become familiar with it, because you are going to find lots and lots of information there. Now me, I'm a bit of an analyst. I like information. I like creating files for each of the clubs so that I have the information on hand, especially what Raynette was talking about earlier, the contact information, being able to have names and email addresses and stuff. Just helped me and allowed me to have a better rapport with each of the officers involved. On the next screen, we have the district central. Once you've logged in as an area governor, you are given a few new choices. One of those is the district central button in the lower left-hand corner. Nice red button. If you click on that button, that takes you to the following screen, which allows you to click on the District 7 icon. Now, if you were an area governor in other districts, other district numbers would show up at this location and would allow you in to do district business in other locations. Once you've clicked on the District 7 button, you then get another submenu of lots of different choices of things that will help you in your reports. The very first item is where you go to submit your area governor club visit reports. Now, when we took the screenshot, it was before the 28th, so it wasn't quite available yet. They are available now for you to be able to start entering that information. But I draw your attention to a couple other things here on the page. You can also do a list request for club officers. We were talking a little bit earlier that there was a question out about how to find out who the contact person is. Well, this way you can actually get an entire download in a CSV or an Excel format of the club officers, their email, their contact information. A really good tool to be able to find so that you know who you're contacting. There's also other information on here that helps out in many different ways. I encourage you to look around at each of these individual pieces. Some of the information is going to be helpful, and some of it you may not be using it as much. Now, as an aside to this, there is another whole reports website set up called the MyGrafferty reports. I'm not specifically going to talk about those, but they are, oh man, they've got so much information. If you want to find out about how your club has done over the last decade or since the records have been kept, you can know exactly how they've done on the DCP. You can know the exact history of their membership, how they've performed in many different areas. It is a website that I know a lot of people really, really enjoy, and it's one that has some really nice tools. And once again, tools, I love tools. Tools to be able to use. Now, when you click on the Submit Area Governor Report, it brings up, almost the next slide, but we're going to go there anyway. What you will end up seeing before you get to this page is that it's going to ask for what club you're doing your area visit report for. So you enter your club name and you enter the date of the visit. If for some reason you need to leave the report and come back later to continue filling it in, remember what date you put in for that visit, because it'll bring up all the information that you saved. And considering these reports can be a bit lengthy, you don't want to have to do them multiple times. It's nice to be able to progressively save the information that you have. What we're looking at is the first part of that Area Governor's Club Visit Report, the first impression section. Now, if any of you, and I suspect many of you, have already looked at the reports or are familiar with them, they ask the same question kind of over and over again, but in slightly different ways. The thing to pay attention to is what section of the report you're in. So if you're in the first impression section and it asks specifically how we can help this club, phrase your answer so that you are addressing the first impressions aspect. If the club itself has, let's say, no signage out front, no way for people walking by to know that there's a club going on, that's going to affect the first impressions. And that could very well be a way to improve the club, is to put a sign out that simply says, guests are welcome. Vast majority of people that will walk up, see a room full of people with a closed door, won't step into it unless they see possibly a guests are very welcome, please come in sign. And that's a good way of getting people through the door. It's just to let them know that they are welcome. Each of the sections inside of the report, phrases such as the first impressions, educational stuff, each one of those looks at a different piece of the area governor report and kind of taking the temperature of the club to see how it's doing. One of the tools that Toastmasters has that I found was incredibly useful, if we move to the next page, is the Moments of Truth seminar. It's almost as if they set up the Moments of Truth exactly for area governors. It was great. They put this tool out there that allows you to take and go into the club, either be part of or run a Moments of Truth and get all the information you need to be able to do your area governor report. And that's exactly what I did. I set it up with each of the clubs so that I could come in and actually take a meeting and walk through the Moments of Truth presentation with the club. Each time I did it, learned something entirely different. Not only that, but each time I did it, the clubs that I was involved in discovered something wildly different than what they had thought. For example, one of the clubs that I went into, we started into a discussion about email. Some of the older members had said, well, we do have an email tree, but pretty much everybody knows what's going on, so we don't use it a whole lot. Well, one of the newer members in the back of the room raised their hand and said, I'd like to know what's going on because I don't know what's going on. And just the simple fact that that statement was made allowed the existing officers to realize that, oh, that might be a really good idea to communicate with people. And it was just something that hadn't even occurred to them because they knew what was going on, and so they kind of assumed that everybody else knew. But by stepping through not only the Moments of Truth, but opening up that communication, allowed them to realize that there was a break between the existing members and the new members. And by putting that in place, they were able to bring in the new members so that they didn't feel as much outside of the group. One of the other clubs that I visited, a simple thing that they discovered were name tents. The new members didn't know who the existing members were, and even visitors that came in didn't know people. All of the people that had been there for a while knew exactly who each other's name was, and they were calling each other by name, but the visitors were reduced to either, excuse me, I don't know your name, or the second gentleman from the left. Once they figured out that name tents were going to be the best way to go, the next meeting that I came to a couple months later, everybody had a name tent that they were asked to design and create themselves. So not only did they have their name, they had a little bit of individuality behind it, and it was something that brought each of the members together and the club together, as well as encouraged guests to become involved because they were just able to take a piece of paper and write their name out. Now these are all pieces that came directly from Moments of Truth that I was able to take and put right into the Area Governor Report. The page you're seeing here is an actual note page from one of the presentations that I did. I handed out the notes to each of the club officers and had them write down answers as we went through and we asked questions. If we move to the next slide, you'll see that this is the report that I provided back to the president of the club. I took all of the copies of the note pages, copies of them, made sure that they had their originals. I had somebody create notes for me so that I didn't walk out with the originals. And I typed them up in just a nice presentation format so that the president could see all the feedback from the different officers. On this one, formal introductions. Well, the suggestion was to research the induction ceremony for the club officer manual and then try inducting the new members with a formal process as opposed to a, oh, welcome, and just a big clap. That allowed them to get a little bit more of a formal aspect to bringing in a new member and making them feel more a part of something special as opposed to just showing up, paying money, and suddenly you're a member. They put a little bit of the ceremony behind that. So by providing this report to the president, they not only had a checklist of all the things that we talked about, they had specific items that they were going to go back and then address with their club, which I believe is, in my perspective, my role as the area governor was as an outsider to come into a club and to say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? What works? What doesn't work? Oh, well, that's interesting. How about this? And offer something slightly different. Maybe something that another club is doing that has worked. I found by visiting, by listening, by communicating, that I found all sorts of different ways that people were making the meetings fun and interesting and creative. One of the clubs that I visited, the word of the day, every time somebody said that, they would knock their knuckles on the table. Well, that was kind of odd the first time it happened, but it encouraged usage of the word of the day. Another club that I went to, they would pass around a stuffed animal, and whoever had the best, I believe it was called the Sunshine Award, whoever had the best outlook on things that day got that Sunshine Award and then presented it the next week. And each of these pieces I was able to learn and offer to other clubs as we went. If we step onto the next slide, we're actually getting into the verbiage of the reports. This is a copy of an actual report that was submitted last year by one of the area governors. The first question, as you can see, this is exactly how it is worded in the report. How does the club promote membership growth, etc.? Their response was a question mark. That isn't very descriptive. That isn't very helpful. As an area governor, you are the communication point between the club and the division level, between the club and the higher club officers. If there's something going on in the club that is either incredibly unique or is a potential problem, then you are the one that provides the information to the higher up district leadership. An example of this was one of the clubs that I went to that I asked, how come you don't have a new banner? And they said, well, we've looked around at a lot of the other clubs and we don't see that they're buying new banners, so we really don't think we should have to spend any money. So there was a problem. Right there was an opportunity for me to be able to communicate not only with the club officers, but with district leadership and basically say, well, we've got a communication gap here. People want to hang on to the old material because they don't see any reason to spend any more money because everybody else is holding on to the old material. And that was a way that that information was able to be presented. On this one, unfortunately, a question mark provides no information to the club officer that the report is sent back to, nor does it provide any information to the higher up division level officers that also get a copy of the report. For example, the district governor, lieutenant governor of marketing. All of those people, they look at this and they have no clue. The second question on this, as you can see, if we got there, we have the same thing, a response of a question mark. The next page, we've got a couple more examples of existing reports that were not helpful. How can a club improve? Please recommend specific actions. Nothing to mention. Not quite a specific action. And not only that, but it's a loss of an opportunity to highlight something about the club that is unique or to ask questions about something that may be a potential problem. The next question on the same page pretty much says the same thing. What can the district and I do to help the club improve? To me, this is one of the most important questions on the Area Governor Report because this is where you specifically address an item that could be the crux or the sticking point for a particular club. And by putting in here something that's necessary or something that could be a possibility, you're providing that information to other people. And unfortunately, a not needed response was not very helpful. We move to the next slide. We see an actual report where, although there's nothing groundbreaking in the verbiage of that report, it still provides a bit of the, how should we say, the je ne sais quoi of a particular club, the life of the club to other people who aren't familiar with it. Members are extremely always enthusiastic about receiving guests and making them feel welcome. Energy, pleasantly high, being an early morning club, the room is organized, the agenda is written on the whiteboard for easy reference. By reading that, I have an image in my mind of what I see in that club. One of the other reasons to put this level of verbiage into the area governor's reports is occasionally, as an area governor, you're not going to be able to make one of your reports. Something's going to happen that is going to completely keep you isolated from being able to make it to that particular club. That was exactly what it was for me this last year. I had one club that met during lunch, and no matter how I tried to rework my work schedule, it wasn't going to happen that I could take a couple hours out of my day to be able to go to a lunch club and then get back. So I had to have another fellow area governor do the report himself and then provide the information to me, which then I provided as an area governor's report. Now, if you're able to make one of the area governor reports, especially the first one, then if you have somebody who makes the second visit for you, they can look at your previous report and say, okay, this is what the culture of the club is, this is what they're working on, and here's a possibility to see, A, if they've addressed it, and B, maybe I can help in some other way. So not only do the reports help you, they help the club presidents, they help the division officers, and they help the higher-up individuals within the district itself. These are, they're not empty, mindless reports that are pushed out by a bureaucracy with a bunch of red tape. They're an opportunity for you to be able to go in, have an intrinsically interesting interaction with these people, like Raynette was saying. If you take in feather boas and top hats, they're going to remember your visit. And not only are they going to remember your visit, they're probably going to look for your return. And if you can get to the point of bringing in some new information and livening up a meeting, that might be able to give them some energy to move and push their meeting to a new level that they possibly haven't gotten to. And with that, that is the conclusion of my presentation, and we move to the Q&A section. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, James. We do have one question. This is from Shannon, and her question involved the other website, and that is referring to the Mike Rafferty reports. Now I'll go ahead and I will give you that website address, but one of the greatest ways I have found to get there is I go to Google and I type in Mike Rafferty, R-A-F-F-E, T as in Tom, Y. If you do Mike Rafferty reports, it will take you to his website, and you need to have the club number, first your District 7, and the club number, and that will bring you up a wonderful graph, and I think it begins with 2004, and it in essence shows you their distinguished club program record for these past 10 years. So you can look and see what their membership was, if they became a distinguished club, what goals they reached. It gives you great insight into that club.
Oh yeah, there is just some wonderful information out there.
Okay, here's a question for you. Would you recommend planning to meet with officers before or after the meeting to ask questions about the club that might not be apparent during the meeting?
I think that's a good idea. My approach was the first meeting that I did, the first time I visited the club, was just kind of a spur of the moment. I'm just going to go as a visitor. And any club that is open to visitors is open to visitors. So I went to just get a sense of how the club is. And then when I set up to do the official visit, yes, I spoke with the officers actually before the meeting and asked them if I could have a few minutes after the end of the meeting to sit down and just talk with the officers themselves. A, if they had questions of me, and B, if I could get some information as far as the educational awards go and what their plan was for the year. So I think that's a really good idea to talk with the officers before and then again after the meetings.
Great. Here is a question from Jane. Do you have experience in starting a club or mentoring a new club?
I personally don't have any direct experience in either of those. I have thrown my hat in the ring last year to be an area governor, and then this year I was asked to be the secretary, so I'm pursuing that, as well as I have 4 clubs that I'm actively involved in, and one of them is we're trying to get it up to strength. So I haven't been an official mentor, or I haven't been officially involved on the quote-unquote official side of starting a club, no. But that's something that I will correct soon.
Well, I'm happy to take that question because I have done both. I helped to start the club called Toastmasters Junction down in Junction City. And that was when I was division governor. And we had an area governor down there, Ken Harris, and another member, Kurt Short. One of them had a connection with the Chevrolet dealership, and the owner of that had been a former Toastmaster. And then Ken had a connection with the Chamber of Commerce. And Phyllis Harmon and I went down there, and we, all of us, had a meeting one afternoon and just talked about having a Toastmasters club down there. And we came up with a date for what we call a kickoff meeting, and that is a modified Toastmasters meeting where all sorts of interested people come together. We agreed that the Chamber of Commerce would purchase the charter kit and that the Chevrolet dealership would provide the meeting space. And I helped as the person helping to organize the club. I created some flyers and emailed them out, and then the folks with the feet on the ground were the ones who distribute that and kind of talked it up in the community. I went down there and we had our kickoff meeting, and then again the feet on the ground, the boots on the ground, made sure that all the applications and the information got collected, and then I submitted all the charter work, and that actually is called a club sponsorship, so I fulfilled that role. And then currently I am a mentor for the new club that's Comcast Communicators Toastmasters Club. And what you do as a mentor, that is a 6-month program, and I try and go every week and just help them along so that they really get off on a good footing, so they know how to conduct good meetings. And that's the mentorship program, and that is 6 months, and both of those count towards your, I believe it's the Advanced Communicator Gold Award. We're going to have a lot of opportunities this year because we're going to be starting a lot of new clubs. Here's a question, James. It is easy to set up a login on the Toastmasters International website.
It is easy if all of the stars align correctly. Well, no, actually it's a lot easier than that. Because when you go to the front page of the Toastmasters International website and you click on the new user, they'll ask you to use the I forgot my password link. Now there are two things going on. Number one, if you've never provided an email address to Toastmasters International, then you want to log in with your membership number. But if you have provided an email address, let's say on your membership application, then log in with that email address, because that's the one they're going to check and see if it's on file, and if it's on file, they'll then send you an email to that address to provide you with a way to go in and set up your own unique password. Now, keeping those two things in mind, it's incredibly easy to set up a login.
And how do you find your Toastmasters member number?
You grab your latest magazine, if you're getting a Toastmasters magazine, and hopefully you've updated your address so that you're getting your regular Toastmasters magazine. The membership number is going to be right above your name on the mailing label to the left-hand side. It'll start with a 0 and be approximately 7 or 8 digits long, depending on when you joined.
Great. And that brings us to the Toastmasters International website. There are tons of resources on that. And if you're only been a member for the last couple years, you can go back through the archives of the magazines for a number of years and find those online. So if you're looking for specific articles with specific topics, you can go back and find those. There are also a number, they're calling them e-learning, and you can just sit and watch just little videos on different topics. So it really is a fabulous resource.
Yeah, they've expanded what they have to offer over the years. You've got a vast majority of material is available in PDF download formats now, as well as just access to the brand portal and other types of manuals and the question and answer section, the FAQs. It covers so many different things. It's great information.
Yeah, and I highly recommend sometime when you've got half an hour to kill, just start browsing through the website and see what there is. There's lots of great information. If you are trying to hold any sort of a membership campaign for your club, or you're trying to help out new members, there's great information. Okay.
There is one more thing I want to say about the Toastmasters website and information for the Area Governor Report. On the last page of the Area Governor Report is a section where you're asked to input information as far as who in the club is going to get or has gotten educational awards for the next year or already has them. There is a place on the Toastmasters website through the Distinguished Club panel that will provide you with a historical background for who in the club has already received those awards, and then you'll be able to enter that information, because the club may not particularly have kept the records well enough to be able to tell you who it was and on what date. The specific report you're going to be looking for is called a daily report, and then you're going to go into the historical educational awards report. It's a little bit of data mining, but once you find it, it's another one of those invaluable tools that will help you fill out your report in a very quick way. Thanks, Leanna.
Great. Here's another question. This is from Shannon. Are there any resources that address the special needs and or circumstances of working with a prison club?
There are several different resource individuals, because there are a lot of people that are in the district that have had direct connection with the prison clubs, I myself being one of them. Alan Ettinger, Gabrielle Proust, man, I can't even go through the whole line. I do believe Ginger, who is online with us now, has some experience as well. There are a lot of people that have had the first-hand experience, and that's going to be probably your best point of interaction, because each one of the prison clubs has a very, very particular way of doing things. They are their own worlds, and what they say goes. And if we want to continue having clubs, and we do because they help out immensely, if we want to continue having those clubs, then we figure out the best way to work with not only the administration, but the inmates inside as well. And I can definitely tell you from firsthand experience, those clubs mean an incredible amount to the people that are involved in them, both on the inside and on the outside. So if you'd like more information about contact on prison clubs, you're more than welcome to email me.
And Shannon, I will email you the name and address of the District 7 prison liaison, and that is Alan Ettinger, and he has been involved for many, many years. I will send you his email, and I'm sure he will be happy to help you with any questions you have. Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, here's one from John. I have heard through the grapevine you have only 60 minutes to enter your report. If unsuccessful to meet that constraint, you lose everything you have entered.
That is not exactly true, but it could be true. At the bottom of every page as you enter your report, there is a button that says Save and a button that says Save and Continue. The pages themselves will time out. If you are on one of the pages of the report, you enter in your information, and I believe it's like 15 or 20 minutes on some of it, you could lose that information. I encourage you to go down to the bottom of the page and click that Save button regularly, because then the information is still there if you log out and come back in to finish your report later.
That's good advice. I remember when I was area governor forgetting to hit the Submit button.
Oh,
and
yes.
starting
Yeah,
all
you
over
save and
again.
Submit. Yeah. That's the final one. And you also need to make sure that you fill in every single blank field in the report, because if you don't, it won't let you submit the report.
Great. Do we have any other questions? Are we the only ones who can enter officer training data?
I believe that the area governors do not have the ability to enter officer training data. The division governors do, and then people higher up in the district leadership also have the ability to enter that information.
Yes, and if in doubt, you can contact Michelle Abelim, our Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training. Oh, for instance, if you can say on thus and such a date, this person whose role was this for this club was trained, then just send it to Michelle, and it's Leggett, L-E-G-E-T, at d7toastmasters.org.
Although I would suggest that the first point of contact should be your division governor. And then go ahead and, I would suggest then go to Michelle. What do you think about that, Leanna?
Sounds good to me, James. Go up the ladder.
Because then we don't hit Michelle with a whole bunch of requests that, the division governors have the ability to take care of that stuff as well.
That's true. Okay, so John is back with, so that is a responsibility of the presidents. Okay, if you're referring to officers training, the officers training comes from, the division and the area governors are the one that are responsible for the training and not the presidents. So if you as the area governor have completed some training, like James mentioned, transfer that information to your division governor so that it gets posted properly and they receive the credit for having been trained. We have another question. Can you review again where to find the historical data on educational awards for club members?
Absolutely. So the first thing you want to do is log into Toastmasters International, then go to the reports dashboard. The dashboard will then show you the map of the world and have all the other information on it. To the left-hand side of the screen is a site map drop-down where you can have access to lots of other different reports. One of those is the daily reports. It's under Other Reports. It's called Daily Reports. It will then take you to another screen where it gives you opportunities. You can look at renewal status, club officer lists, and then educational achievements is the one you're going to want to look at, which you then click on. It takes you to a change district drop-down where you have to switch to District 7 to be able to have access to that information. And then once again you click on educational achievement. It's kind of narrowing you down, figuring out exactly what information you want. Once you're into that, you have an entire spreadsheet listing starting by club numbers and going all the way up for the entire year, and it lists out the member name, the date that they received the award, what the award was, and what club they're a member of. So that's how you get to that information. Hopefully that was helpful.
Okay, we have a note here from Michelle Albalim, our Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training. Michelle says, I'll be happy to enter the club officer training records on the Toastmaster International website. So you can go ahead and email those directly to Michelle, and she will see that they are recorded and officers receive their credit. Thank you, Michelle. Another question, this is from Eric. He says, since I belong to a club in my area where I'm the area governor, should I do that report or should I have someone else do that report for me? That's a great question.
Well, I was a member of a club in the area and did the report there. The way I would suggest going about it would be to come to your club and look at it with brand new eyes, as if you were visiting for the first time. Because you know everybody that's there, but really kind of sit back and take a look at the club and how it runs as if you hadn't been there before. The other thing you could do is bring along a friend, maybe another area governor from a different area, or even better yet, somebody who's thinking about possibly being an area governor next year or is interested. This would be a really good way to not only mentor them, but to use them in the process as well and get them familiar with it. That way you can get their impressions on your club from a perspective that is new and or different, and you can get them interested in being an area governor for next year, which is incredibly vital and a great way to grow.
And another idea would be to bring that area governor report with you. Take a look at.
Absolutely.
What are they asking
Absolutely.
you?
Yep, print it out. Print it out, take it in with you, and write notes right on top of the page.
Okay, do we have a few more minutes. Do we have any more questions? Everything you ever wanted to know about area governor visits and reports. Raynette, do you have any summary or in closing any points that you would like to reiterate to our audience tonight?
I don't. I am processing James' helpful hints. There's a lot there.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of data.
Thank you. That was great.
Okay, well, I think we will go ahead and move. Oh, we got one more question. Here is from Michelle, again, our Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training. Area governors can add value to their visits by bringing news, information, and materials from the district, such as contests, dates, conferences, and how about the world's largest Toastmasters meeting, August 30th, Portland Pioneer Square?
Yep, absolutely. I found myself more than once having a conversation with the club just explaining the structure of the district, what areas are, what divisions are, what district is, because a lot of the members of the club aren't as familiar with the larger district, and so you are the spokesman for the district. So all of the information that Michelle is mentioning is great because you can share it with them. And remember to have fun with these, because this is an opportunity to just have some fun. Although it is data heavy and can be, take a page from Raynette and make it a fun occurrence. Make it something that not only you're going to enjoy doing, but they're going to enjoy experiencing, because you want to be able to have a good relationship and you want to be able to come back more and more. Thanks, Leanna.
Great. And here's another little nugget from Michelle. She says that she's got lots of useful information that she can share with any of you governors, so just ask. And don't forget about our Building Better Clubs series, our leadership series. There's lots of opportunities for you to present educational segments to the clubs. I find when I am going to visit a club, even though I'm not a governor, just to send an email, I'm coming, is there a role I can fill for you? And maybe you don't want to do that with your first visit, but maybe afterwards, if you have the opportunity to visit more than once, you might want to fulfill one of those roles or take part in table topics so they can see that you're a regular kind of a Toastmaster too, and that you're not just the Toastmaster police. And like James said, it's a great way just to have a lot of fun and visit another club. Let's see, we've got another question here. If we have clubs that just cannot make officers training, can the area governor set up training for 3 club officers? And these are our clubs that are just a little bit more remote. Actually, I think that that is a question for your division governor. So go ahead and check with your division governor and let them know that some of your club officers are having difficulties, and arrange that with them, because they'll go ahead and they're the ones to give you the go-ahead. And we're getting some positive comments on our webinar. I would like to thank Raynette Yoshida and James Wantz for taking the time and sharing their expertise and their experience with our governors this evening. If you would like to reach anyone on this webinar, here is their contact information on the screen now. And as James mentioned, he is currently the District 7 Secretary. So we invite you to reach out, send emails to them, and I'm sure if you'd like to talk in depth about anything that was mentioned tonight, that they would be happy to do that. And our goal this year is for 100% of all our area governor reports to be submitted on time. And as James mentioned earlier, if you know that you're going to have trouble visiting a club due to your work schedule, make arrangements, and make those arrangements early. Perhaps another area governor within your division, or your division governor, but talk about that when you have your division council meetings and make those arrangements early. Your first report is due by November 30th, and the second one will be due May 31st. And our final message to you is visit early, visit often, enjoy your year as an area governor. And thank you so much to all of you for attending our webinar tonight. Good evening.